Hi, it's Richard Moore from Racing Profits Guides, and we're up here at Mount House Stables with James Given, and we're just going to talk to James a little bit about York Racecourse and some of the success he's had there and what he feels as a trainer is important when he sends horses to York. Hi, how are you doing, James? You
Good,
all right?
thanks, Richard. Yeah, nice to see you back here.
And you. And York Racecourse, obviously in your career you've had quite a few runners there and quite a bit of success at York.
Yeah, I mean the highlight would be winning the Ebor, which is a fantastic race to win. It's the most valuable handicap in Europe, and it's a race that means a lot to the Yorkshire crowd. I remember when we won it, we then paraded the horse back up the racecourse, and it was the sound from the crowd wasn't so much something you heard; it's something you felt. It was a great feeling.
They have huge crowds there, don't they? Every meeting I think is well supported at
Yes.
York, but definitely the Ebor in August. And Hugstance had also, was that a double he'd done? He'd done the Chester Cup as well.
He went on to win the Chester Cup
The year after.
the following spring,
Okay.
and he's the only horse since Sea Pigeon to have accomplished that. So he's in good company.
And a good feather in your cap as well.
Yeah.
So that's obviously 1 mile 6, which is on the back straight. There's a spur that comes off the back straight, which is the 1 mile 6 and 1 mile 4 start. So the Ebor's a 1 mile 6
Yeah.
start, is it down there?
Yeah, that used to be the Lonsdale Cup trip, 2 miles, but they've given up, I think, with some of the 2 mile, the last furlong or two of that, since they made the race course into a round track, which they had to do when they held the Royal meeting there, because they needed to be able to hold a race up to 2.5 miles to the Gold Cup.
Right.
The race course used to be just a sort of a J, almost a fishhook shape.
Like a horseshoe shape.
But then they completed the circle so they could hold races above 2 miles for obviously the Gold Cup.
And when was the Ascot meeting held? Was it 2006? Or?
Something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
So it was that recent that they actually made it a full round.
That's right. Yes, it was.
Right.
It wasn't complete. There was an occasion once in the Nunthorpe, and fantastic video. You can find it on YouTube of the day Kevin Darley dead heated with he was on. I can't remember the horse's name, but he dead heated with Dandy Nichols's wife.
Right.
And there's this lovely bit of footage as you see the horse Kevin rides. As the stores open, the bit breaks in the horse's mouth.
Wow.
So he rides a 5 furlong race, albeit a straight
yeah.
line, with just his hands in the horse's mane, and still gets it up to win, albeit a dead heat. And there's this bit of footage. He just turns to his right and looks at Kieran Fallon, who's just upside him, with behind him, and he shows him, "I haven't got any reins."
Yeah.
And at that point, the race course was still open, so the chute went round and it just ended up into the car park.
Yeah.
So Kev's horse just kept going, and Kieran, being the great horseman he is, kept going with Kev. Fortunately, the horse had a noseband on, so there was something Kieran could get hold of on the horse's head to slow it down. He didn't stop it.
Right.
Kev then bailed out, but at a sensible pace. The problem was then he then had to get the horse to get the saddle to weigh in, and this was
Chasing it round the car park.
yeah,
Was it?
well, the great expanse of the Naismar.
Yeah.
And this is all the time the judge was still trying to decide whether Alex Greaves or Kevin Darley had won.
Had won the race.
And so that I think it was, took a very long time. I think there was
That was in the
10 or
Nunthorpe as
15
well.
10 or 15 minutes to get the announcement that it was actually a dead heat. And also Kev was having to find his horse, get the saddle and weigh back in with the right weight. So it was quite a dramatic race, but it was just 2 examples of great horsemanship, or 3 I should say. Alex, the first woman to win a Group 1. Kev riding a winner without a bridle, and Kieran helping stop him slow down. And if you can find that bit of footage, it's a fantastic race.
I'll ask Kevin about it, because I'm seeing him on Wednesday next week. He's doing a video interview with us at York, so that'll be great. So those are your highlights. Obviously you've had other winners at the course as well. You said the Yorkshire Oaks you won as well.
No, we didn't. I'd love to have won that race. We finished
third
third in it.
Third,
with a horse called Trick or Treat. She had won the year before the Melrose handicap at the Ebor meeting,
Which was over the same
mile
trip
and
as
6. It's a bit further than the Yorkshire Oaks, but she was completing a 5-timer, and she beat Sir Michael Stout's horse Ask, who went on to win the Eclipse and be a Group 1 performer.
That's right. Yeah.
We were receiving £10, so one could argue that if we'd been meeting in a conditions race, we would still got a £5 allowance for being a filly to a colt. So she was technically £5 well in, if you want to make that specific argument, and beat it a short head. But that was a great day, winning her 5th race in a row and winning at the meeting. And then she went on.
And that's at the Ebor meeting as well, is it?
Yeah, she went on to win a listed race and a group race, Group 3 at Ascot, favourite, and was third in the Yorkshire Oaks the following years or so.
Fantastic. So good memories of the course at York. And how do you find it as a course then? Very flat, isn't it? Left-handed.
Yeah.
Is it quite a tight course, or is it?
No, it's a big sweeping bend.
Galloping.
Yeah, galloping bend. And in recent years, since they relayed it, the jockeys have got into the habit, it seems to me, of coming up the middle. In days before they relayed it and they did all the drainage, because they lost the Ebor meeting some years ago, because the Knavesmire is a floodplain.
It is, yeah.
And so, the pictures we'll all remember, I'm sure, in the Racing Post, of canoes going down the home straight.
But the new drainage work they did over the last few years has really helped that, has it?
Yeah, it has. There were complaints early on about the track bedding in. I think a little bit unjustified. It's one of those things, people were looking to just stir trouble because they can. In days before, the races on the round track used to stay on the far rail,
right,
and the straight track used to come up the stands rail,
right,
in broad strokes. But now it seems all races tend to come up the middle of the track.
Down the middle, yeah.
I'm sure we may see this year some horse winning on one side or the other and then all go back again. I think there's a little element of sheep about it.
The jockeys think there is a golden highway, don't they? They try and find it on every course. So that's on the round course. They used to stay on the outside, but you think it's all down the middle now?
They tend to come down the middle on both. They swing off the end. The point of being is that there's always room. It's very, very unlikely to have hard luck stories at York.
Yeah.
I mean, we all remember Frankel's display in the Juddmonte.
Yeah,
he's
absolutely. Destroyed everyone, didn't he?
And he's just hardly come off the bridle. But he ended up actually 3/4 of the way across, much nearer the stands rail than the far rail, yet they'd come round the bend and they just sort of swing off the bend. So every horse, if it's good enough, gets a chance almost invariably at York.
So you don't get many hard luck stories where they get pinched up. And the sprint course, there's a straight 6 furlong and 5 furlong, and then there's like a spur that goes off which gives a bend to the 7 furlong.
Yeah, dogleg 7.
Dogleg,
yeah. But again, there's such a long run in from where the dogleg is. Yes, there probably is on the dog leg a slight bit of a bias that if you're low you can get pinched up on the bend if you've not gone forward, or you can get a little bit further back, but you're only got as you say, literally a dog leg, so even if you are on the outside you're only losing a couple of lengths, it's such a long way to the start.
So how long would you say the finish straight is? About 4 furlongs, is it? Or?
It's something like that, yeah.
It's good long, so you've got loads of time. A bit like Nottingham really then, is it nice and wide?
Yeah, like a lot of good galloping tracks like Doncaster
as well, yeah. And then the sprint course, obviously you've got the Nunthorpe, as you were talking about earlier, the 5 furlong, the 6 furlong, I think you've got the Jim Crack over that distance, haven't you?
Yeah, and the Lowther.
And the Lowther.
The 2-year-old races there.
Have you had many runners in the
We've had a runner in the Lowther, I've never had a run on the Jim Crack. So yeah, it's good galloping ground. It's flat, straightforward.
So there's no real bias. You don't think,
best horse wins usually.
Always the best horse that wins in that. That's great. And what other things do you think people like to look for when they're out racing at York? Are there any things you as a trainer you look for when you're sending a horse there?
Yeah, temperament. It may not be sort of immediately apparent to your armchair viewer or whatever, but the stables, although there is a plan to change this, the stables are the far side of the track.
In Tadcaster Road. So
and they have to walk all the way across the track. You can box them across if you've got something you're particularly worried about, or box them round the racecourse, not actually across the track. But it's a long old lead up, and when you're the far side of the track, it's quiet and tranquil, which is great. But as you start to approach the track, particularly in the big meetings there, the atmosphere, as I was saying, is something you kind of feel as much as hear, and it can start to unwind a horse's mind a little bit if they are a temperamental soul. And as they get in, they're a bit
more agitated.
Yeah, the pre-parade ring was stuck away in the corner. I think they've changed this now, so not entirely familiar with the new setup. I haven't been.
It's a lot bigger. I think it's another third again.
But I think the pre-parade ring might be a little bit closer to the track than it used to be.
Right,
so again, that'll just be a test of a horse's temperament, because you'll have to have got across before your race is run, in order to be across and in order to get saddled in time.
The saddling up area.
Yeah, because they won't. You haven't got time to leave the racecourse stables. Get across and get saddled in time, from in your race. So it does test a horse's temperament in the way that other race courses don't. You know, have smaller lead ups and more sheltered lead ups and more sheltered pre-parade.
And I think we discussed this at Nottingham as well. They're on the other side of the track and they have to come across. So would you be sort of a bit wary sending a juvenile to York then because of this, or is it a good testing ground?
Not wary. I mean, it just depends on what your assessment
know your
of the
horse anyway.
I mean, one of the differences between Nottingham and York is that they are the far side. Nottingham, they walk round the track. They're sort of next to a hedge. They're next to something.
Yeah.
You know, York, you are across the middle of the nose mile. Now they have put white rails. It used to be, you know, you left here and you know, took a compass bearing and set off and off you went. But now they have white railed it across, so there is a walkway for the horses, which I think does help the horses. When it was just a vast expanse, you know, and you were walking on a compass bearing,
a few could get a bit agitated.
It helped, you know, it could wind a few up. The white rails, I think, help settle them a bit. Whereas I say, Nottingham, you do walk round the edge. I mean, it's still a test, but I think it's just knowing the horses, and you know. I mean, like the horse that won the Ebor for us was one of the most phlegmatic horses I've ever come across.
Was it? Yeah.
Fortunately, I trained. I mean, he went off and ran the Melbourne Cup for me. You know, that's a horse who had to take that journey. I mean, you know, but he just had the right attitude towards life.
So his temperament was fine for it.
Fine.
Yeah, lovely. Oh, well, that's great. Anyway, a lovely insight to York. Thanks a lot, James.
No
Thank
problems.
you.